What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pub Sports Radio. This is the Total Takedown, and we are using lines brought to you by Superbook Sports. UFC 275. Big pay-per-view this week. Got to get out of the habit of dropping the Vegas. We're traveling again. UFC's back on the road, and I need a haircut. So we're getting into this one. We're talking overs, unders, how long we think these fights are going to last, and if there's any value, maybe not picking a side, rather playing a total. First fight of the night, Ramona Pascal taking on Jocelyn Edwards. Total is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 200. The under 2.5 is plus 175. I think this one's pretty much a dead over. I mean, Ramona Pascal is going to be looking to grapple. She showed in her last fight how incredibly tough and durable she is. Jocelyn Edwards is not the easiest woman in the world to finish. She does accept bottom. She does have a decent bottom game, uses her guard well. So no matter who's in the driver's seat, I kind of think this thing is going over. There is some ground and pound opportunity from Ramona. I actually don't mind maybe a late TKO from her if she can grind on Jocelyn for 15 minutes. And then there is, of course, if Ramona can't get the takedown, Jocelyn could kick her in the head or something and KO her that way. But minus 200 for women's MMA, relatively cheap price tag. I'll look at the over. Silvana Juarez taking on Na Liang. Total for this one just set at 1.5 because we all know about Na Liang and what she brings to the table. The under is plus 105. The over is minus 125. And as much as we'd all like to say, hey, it's women's MMA, it's the smallest division in the UFC organization, this should be going over. Na is just balls to the wall from the first bell. You are never getting anything but a violent first round from Na. She tries to drag her opponents to the mat, runs out of gas, and then has nothing to give at any point in time after that. Taking on Silvana Juarez, who's got some big pop in her punches and is just an expert at getting herself caught in arm bars. This one's probably going under. I don't mind that plus 105 price tag. It feels almost a little trappy to me because why would they give us plus money on this considering we all know exactly what Na Liang does? But hey, I just got to go with it. Dana Batgaril taking on Kyung-ho Kang. Total set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 125. The under 2.5 is plus 105. Both these guys are super tough, super durable, hard to put away. I know Dana's coming off of that spinning elbow KO, but I don't see Kyung-ho Kang doing anything like that. Obviously, Dana has the kind of power. He can take pretty much anybody out on the feet if it stays standing, but Kyung-ho Kang is a chain grappler. He's going to be looking to get this thing to the mat. If he gasses out, he could be easy pickings later in the fight for Dana. This one's a little binary. If you're looking over, you're probably thinking Kyung-ho Kang is in the driver's seat. If you're looking under, it's probably Dana Batgaril getting it done. I think there is some chance that Dana can win a decision with being the more effective striker, and Kyung is a very hard guy to actually put away. So I kind of like the over 2.5 at minus 125 here a little bit more than anything else, but it wouldn't surprise me if Dana nuked him at any point in time in this fight. Jake Matthews taking on Andre Fiallo. Total set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 110. The under 2.5 is minus 130. And again, this one looks like it's relatively binary. If you're thinking that Jake Matthews is winning this fight, it's probably going towards that over. If you think Fiallo's winning this fight, it's probably because he landed another absolute bomb. The thing is, I actually think there's more finishing upside for Jake Matthews than people are giving him credit for. We've seen Andre Fiallo struggle in the grappling. We've seen his gas tank be a bit of a problem before. This is his third fight in 3 months. I think there is something to that. He's traveling across the country, across the planet to get to this third fight in a row. I think he actually might be dragging a bit more than people are expecting, and Jake Matthews has some opportunity to finish. This is definitely an under 2.5 spot for me. I did already play the Jake Matthews side. I am tempted to hedge that with the under 2.5, and then the only option for me losing would be an Andre Fiallo decision, which, let's be honest, I don't really see happening. So I kind of like the under in this spot. Might actually end up on that myself. Steve Garcia taking on Mahashate. We've got total set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 145. Under 2.5 minus 165. This is another violent spot. Steve Garcia wings big power hooks. Mahashat hits like a truck. Both these guys relatively inexperienced. Steve Garcia has a few more MMA fights under his belt, but they both pretty much just go to war with their chins. Whoever's chin gives up first is going to be the one who loses this fight, and I do think somebody probably gets finished. Under 2.5 minus 165. I like that. Joshua Khalibel taking on Sungwoo Choi. Total again set at 2.5 for this one. The over is minus 140. The under is plus 120. Josh Khalibel shown to be really durable, really tough, even though he did get TKO'd in his first fight against Jalen Turner. Ankle injury right before the finish happened, so not really a fair take to say that he got finished there. He's hung in there with guys like Charles Jourdain, went 15 minutes with that absolute tornado. Sungwoo Choi, he's got big power, almost killed Alex Caceres in the first round, but he ended up getting climbed like a tree, had his back taken, and got choked out. I don't know that Joshua Khalibel is really capable of that, but he is training with Alexander Volkanovski, so he could have a little bit more grappling chops than we've seen previously coming into this fight. That could be a bit of a problem, but if Sungwoo Choi is able to stay safe, if he's able to defend those takedowns, this thing probably squeezes over. I do think both these guys have the power to knock the others out. Either one of them could land a big bomb. But I honestly think we're going to get a 15-minute striking match where both guys are relatively defensive, staying solid, going to war, putting on a show. I think over 2.5. Jacob Malkoun taking on Brendan All-In Allen. Another 2.5 for us here. Over 2.5 is plus 115. Under 2.5 is minus 135. Jacob Malkoun isn't finished anybody, folks. He is a grinder. Sticks to you like glue. You cannot get this guy off your leg once he's attached to you. Brendan Allen is much more of the finisher here in this spot. Power striking on the feet. He seems to have fallen in love with his hands a little bit. Deadly grappling. BJJ black belt. Knows his way around a good scramble. I think if anybody's finishing this fight, it's going to be Allen. He has shown himself to overextend just a little bit, be a little bit chinny. He's been clipped before. But again, Jacob Malkoun, not the kind of guy that really takes advantage of that or puts anybody away. I kind of think this fight does end up actually going under. I know my criteria is both people need to be contributing to that somehow. Jacob Malkoun is shown to be a little bit chinny. He's been clipped before. His UFC debut, he got blasted by Brendan Allen's training partner. So there is something to be said for that. Doesn't really meet the criteria, but at the end of the day, I think Brendan Allen probably finishes Jake Malkoun, so I'm going to say under 2.5 at minus 135. Ramazan Ameev taking on Jack Della Maddalena. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 190. The under is plus 170. And this one's going to get hairy right at that 2-minute and 30-second mark in that third round. I promise you. Because Jack Della has serious pop in his punches. He knows how to stay even-keeled. He knows how to put that boxing to good use. And it's damage over time that eventually just becomes too much for his opponents to handle. Ramazan Ameev, low output on the feet, not really known much for his striking, looks to slow the pace of the fight down, hold people up against the fence, get that control time, and try to squeeze out a win. I don't think he's going to be overly successful with that here. Jack Della is decent when it comes to his scrambles and getting back up to his feet. He knows where he needs this fight to be to get the win. So at the end of this fight, it's either going to be Ramazan Ameev hanging on for dear life, or it's going to be Ramazan Ameev hanging on for dear life. Because he's either going to be up 2 rounds, and Jack is going to need a finish for the win, so Jack's going to be going for broke here, or he's going to be 1-1 going into the third or down 2 rounds because he's survived till this point and he's just looking to get to the final bell. Either way, I actually think this fight ends up starting relatively slowly and then kind of ramps up and gets more dangerous the deeper we go. I'm going to say that over 2.5 probably hits, but at the same time, definitely not putting my money there. Manel Kape taking on Rogério Bontorin. Total set at 2.5 again for this one. Over is plus 115. Under is minus 135. Now, both these guys are more than capable of finishing. We have seen Rogério Bontorin on the ground. He's got big, explosive, one-hitter, quitter type of power. Manel Kape, obviously, the flying knees, the explosive moves. This guy can knock anybody in this division out for sure. But what I see playing out, honestly, is maybe a little bit more of a low-volume approach from Manel Kape, looking to avoid the grappling, use that counter wrestling, and then Rogério Bontorin, obviously wanting to get this fight to the ground, punching his way into takedowns, looking for the body lock. I could see the clock ticking away on this one. If Manel Kape doesn't land some kind of a crazy explosive flying knee on Rogério, I think we're in for a bit of a grind, a little bit more of a chess match than people are expecting from this fight. I'm going to say over 2.5 at plus 115. Joanna Jędrzejczyk taking on Weili Zhang. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 260. The under is plus 230. Both these women have been knocked out just once, both by Rose. So I wouldn't say neither of them are particularly weak-chinned or have any type of concerns with their durability. The last time they went at it, they went a full 25 minutes, and that's where Joanna obviously had that giant hematoma, managed to push through all that and survive to get to that final bell. They both landed big shots in that fight. Zhang didn't wear the damage nearly as bad, but Joanna hit her with some big shots. So I can see this thing being a 15-minute war. Maybe there's some more chance for a finish because they're not going to have to go 25. They can kind of empty the gas tank a lot quicker in this one. So maybe we get some kind of a starching explosive finish a lot earlier in this fight, but I still think this one goes 15. I think both of them are good enough, technical enough, and tough enough to hang into this fight and have it get to the judges. Taila Santos taking on Valentina Shevchenko. Co-main event time here. Total set at 3.5 for this one. We finally get a little change of pace here. Over 3.5 is minus 140. The under 3.5 is plus 120. And this is where they get me. This is where the bookies start to piss me off. This is tricky. This is super tricky because right at that 3.5 mark is where things start getting sketchy for me. I think this fight is another one that will start relatively slow. Taila Santos, is going to probably look to use her grappling, going to look to kind of bully Valentina Shevchenko around the cage. Shevchenko usually tends to be a little bit of a slow starter. In that second round, that third round, that's when she really starts feeling herself, gets her opponent's timing down, ranks up the intensity, and if people can't hang with her, she puts them away. That's how it goes. So if Taila comes out hard, she can either burn her gas tank trying to get the finish for Valentina and leave herself helpless, or if she tries to extend this thing, then she may just get outclassed for 25 minutes. Either way, I think this 3.5 mark is probably right about where I expect the fight to end. Full disclosure, I do have Valentina Shevchenko inside the distance as one of my bets, and I think the finish is coming in the 4th or 5th round. We've never seen Taila Santos go that deep before. We've never seen her compete beyond 15 minutes, and we have seen her slow down. She uses a lot of muscle in her techniques, and because of that, we don't know if we can trust her for a full 25 minutes. Valentina, on the other hand, we know this girl can go 25 minutes, no problem, and still be a killer deep in that fight. So I expect a late finish here, but I don't really want to touch 3.5. I'm going to say over. I'll say over 3.5 rounds. That puts us in the 4th round. And I do think we see a 4th or a 5th round finish. That's kind of my read on the fight, so I'm definitely not betting this total, but I do think we probably squeeze over this 3.5. Jiří Procházka taking on Glover Teixeira in our main event on Saturday. So pumped up for this fight. Total set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 140. The under 1.5 is going to be plus 120. And how do you not love violence in this spot? The way that Jiří and Glover fight, like, I could see them slowing it down just a little bit. Jiří has a weakness in the grappling, and we know Glover really thrives when he can take his opponents down to the ground. Glover gets hurt in every single fight, manages to survive it, dig deep, and then flip the tables on his opponent after they've expended a little too much energy trying to finish him. I don't know that that's happening with Jiří. If Jiří manages to clip and hurt Glover, I'm pretty sure it's over. Now, if Glover manages to get Jiří down, whether that's a desperation start, he wants to get him down before he has time to settle in and close that range, I could see Glover like football tackling this guy from across the cage to get it down quickly as possible. I'm thinking violence here, folks. I think this fight probably ends in the 2nd round, and that's the 1.5 mark that we're looking at. It is a little bit scary, but I still would say under 1.5 because once one of these guys connects, it's all off. We're off to the races. I think we could start maybe a little bit slow, a little bit cautious. Again, kind of depends on how Glover wants to look in this case. But once either Glover gets rocked or Glover looks to level change, whichever one comes first, this fight is going to ratchet up, and I don't see it ever slowing back down until somebody gets finished. So I'm going to say under 1.5 in our main event. That's the total takedown, folks. Of course, tomorrow we are going to be right back here for the Undefeated Post Weigh-In show, tuning in for all those post weigh-in reads. We will see you guys there. Smash the like button. We be pubbing. See you tomorrow.